Glad to have you today. The federal government says it has commenced moves to reclaim its transshipment cargoes that were lost to other West African countries by constructing rail lines to some landlocked countries on the continent. Now, this was disclosed at the ongoing International Association of Ports and Harbours Conference in Abuja by the Minister of Transport, Mr. Rotimi Amechi, who noted that an intermodal transport system that will take care of cargo and passenger logistics from any point across the country is on the way. This is the portfolio on NTN News 24, reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. And our focus is on the resignation of the former Minister of Finance, Kemi Adelson, and setting an agenda for the incoming supervising minister, Zainab Ahmed. I'm Chimobi Walter Naji, saying welcome to the program. Comfort Amadou is standing by with business news. Hello, Comfort.
Hello, Chimobi. Good to see you. And now the news. The supervising Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, said Nigeria is still grappling with revenue challenges, noting that more needs to be done to stabilize the country's economy. This includes instituting policies and enacting laws that will prevent tax avoidance. However, relevant stakeholders in the finance sector have called for a synergy between departments and agencies under the Ministry of Finance to ensure the actualization of a robust economy.
Enterprises and business transactions within the banking sector with turnover of 1 billion naira and above, checking to see if they have a tax ID. The law simply says that if you're going to open a corporate account with any bank, you should furnish that bank with a tax ID to at least show that you're registered for tax payment. And we have seen that there's quite a large disparity. A number of individuals, a number of businesses did not take advantage of it, did not come forward.
The ones dealing with companies, with this Companies Income Tax Act, C-2111-2004, it's for companies, assessment and collection of companies. You have Capital Gains Tax Act, Cap C-111-2004, which you use anytime there's a disposal of assets and there's a chargeable gain, and you have to pay tax at the rate of 10%.
Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Nigeria has announced fines for banks who fail to reverse failed transactions after 24 hours. The Apex Bank said any failed Nigerian instant payment NIP transaction not reversed into the customer's account within 24 hours based on complaint of the sender or the beneficiary will attract a fine of 10,000 naira. The Apex Bank disclosed this in its circular on the regulation of instant interbank electronic funds transfer services in Nigeria, issued to deposit money banks, microfinance banks, and other financial institutions. The circular also states that any delayed application of inward NIP into beneficiaries' account beyond 4 minutes would attract a fine of 10,000 naira per item. CBN's Director of Banking and Payment Department, Dikbo Fatokun, said the new regulation takes effect from October 2nd next month. The circular also states that the receiving entity should notify the customer about the consequences of not funding the account within 24 hours, which include watch listing in the bank industry, credit bureau, and reporting to law enforcement agencies, as the receiving entity would watch list the customer if he failed to provide funds within 7 days. And that report concludes the news. Many thanks for watching. I'm Comfort Amadou.
Ms. Kemi Adelson was appointed Nigeria's Minister of Finance in November 2015 by President Muhammadu Buhari. Shortly afterwards, the country slipped into recession, pushing the nation to different economic limits in 2016. The nation emerged out of this recession following various efforts by the ministry and other relevant stakeholders and stayed on a positive trajectory since then, with lots of economic activities and policies. However, things took another turn following the National Youth Service Corps Exemption Certificate scandal that led to her resignation on the 14th of September 2018. Now, following her resignation, President Muhammadu Buhari appointed the Minister for State Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, to oversee the ministry. Mrs. Zainab Ahmed has since assumed duty at the ministry on Monday. Our focus today is, however, not on the resignation of Kemi Adelsun, but on setting an agenda for the incoming Minister, Zainab Ahmed. And I have in the studios an economist and a regular analyst on the program, Mr. Yoshua Ali. You're welcome to the portfolio.
Thank you very much.
All right, so first, let's start by with your impression on the resignation of Kemi Adelsun.
It is part of our development process. Initially, Dr. Kemi took over an economy that was slumping into recession, as you rightly guided us. Unfortunately, she is going when the economy is now stable. The event in between is just is more of political and other issues, but her performance and eloquence nature at which she presents the economy matters to us as economists. First, when we look at she took over an economy that just got into recession, and she was able to stabilize the income of the government. When you check the profile of Nigerian foreign reserve when she took over, and when now that she's going for another different level, you see the development so far.
Okay, so one of the areas where people have actually applauded Kemi Adelsun was on her handling of the perceived crisis that rocked the Federal Account Allocation Committee in the past. You know, what do you think about that?
You see, like I pointed earlier, our development process has to come with different events. These are technocrats. But when you mention technocrats, they are all coming as professionals. When they are coming as professionals, everybody is now trying to defend his own interests.
Of course.
So there is federal government interest in it. There is a state government interest in it, as well as local government. The sharing formula advocated by fiscal responsibility and then adopted by Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission is the bedrock of all these issues. So she has done well, but she has not done final. And that is why anytime when politicians as technocrats combine together, you have to imbibe a culture of mutually beneficial agreement. If there is disagreement, they can fight you to the core, each party, because it's what matters. We are running a central government that relies so much on what the mainstay of the economy is bringing, the oil. So if the formula is well agreed, you have to also present a template where the accruals can well be understood by the parties. So she has done her best. I agree there are some lapses, but I believe the minister, a disciplined minister that is coming from the budget, you know, the two are identical jobs, being in finance or being in the budget, but the budget are more disciplined. They are more disciplined because they look into they look critically into the economy. What are we targeting? What instrument are we using? But the finance concentrate more on accruals and disbursement, and that is where everybody wants to hear, because governors with their budget, they are waiting for that accruals. Federal government and their political promises are also waiting for that accruals. Okay,
so let's look at, you know, with the new person coming, you know, on board at this critical time. Just in a few months' time, we'll be having the Nigeria's general elections and, of course, the handing over ceremony. What should be her focus at this time?
Her focus is to try as much to help the government in power. To help the government in power by achieving set targets. The targets are clearly in our budget. What is the target? The growth rate target of 3.5 as set by the budget office. Now she is on the table to make it work.
For implementation?
For implementation. So I congratulate the Senator Udo Doma that all his aspirations, all his desires now they are going to work very closely. And I want her to look at two issues. One, injections into the economy as quick as possible. And there is need also to consider, when you watch carefully, when she was accepted by the Ministry of Finance, she was accepted wholeheartedly by trade unionists, singing solidarity song. That singing solidarity songs does not end there. They are indirectly telling her that minimum wage of workers that is on the table of the trade minister of trade as well as the Ministry of Finance.
Yes.
So she should vehemently look into that issue as quick as possible and advise government the right thing to do. But you cannot do with only those who are working to facilitate this achievement. You have to look also at on the pensioners who have worked tirelessly and whose arrears is also pending. You see, the critical aspect of that is that when you stabilize workforce, you now set goals to achieving the greater efficiency of your performance. And that is why the presidential initiative on continuous auditing of the federal government must be looked into so as to ascertain the performance of all levels of government. And when you check the performance, you now look at why the performance is low or high. If it is low, you look at why the performance was low. If it is low, you have to also find quick solutions why there must be an instrument to perfect the performance aspect of the budget.
All right. So another achievement of the former minister is also embedded, on the international relationships that she was able to build over time, and of course with the international communities. How can the present minister, ensure continuity in this trajectory?
Like I mentioned, synonymous job. The Minister of Finance is in charge of all government investment, and is also in charge of all government economic endeavors. The Chinese swap, which was signed into law by the central bank,
yes,
and some part of the ministry, has to be perfected. There is need to, on this FOCAC that is focused on China-Africa relationship, the minister has to work tirelessly to make sure that all the injections that are needed, all the facilities ease of doing business that will facilitate the Chinese to come, also to apply to the focus laboratories. The focus laboratories has an intention of investing over $20 billion US.
Of course.
And we are now lucky that part of the international commitment of this ministry and also the central bank, about $5 billion is coming into that 20 billion. So if it is coming, then what about other economic groups that are also coming? Remember, Nigeria is fighting anti-corruption seriously, and there is so much of funds that are lying fallow outside the economy. So it is the job of this minister to quickly facilitate the inflow of these facilities so as to be put at the right places. And the right places must include our own diversification effort. If the economy is diversified and is assisted, the global economy, the international economy will respect Nigerian policy makers and will respect the economy, and they will give us more support. Remember, the foreign exchange is declining as a result of so much of political wars.
Yes.
So we don't need political wars now. What we need is political cooperation and economic cooperation between Nigerian economic actors as well as international community that are ready to work with us. It's not all in these international economies are coming in favor of A or B. They are coming in their own favor. But I quite agree with the Chinese, because the Chinese have a focus, and the focus is investing not only on critical infrastructures like our transport system, like our own agricultural sector, but as well as educational. Education matters a lot. So the ministry, in trying to diversify, we should not be putting more emphasis on putting resources directly in certain critical sectors with ignoring education, because education is the bedrock. Our universities must be incorporated with the best brains so that they can move along with the Chinese in our railway effort, in our agricultural effort, as well as even economic effort. because the Chinese Center for Economic Research, which was headed by Professor Justin Yu-Fu Lee, who is now the chief economist of the World Bank, have done greatly to put in the Chinese economy on a higher scale among other economics of the world.
Okay, Mr. Aliyu, let's take a look at the challenges that is facing the current minister who is coming in. We've looked at first the political setup at the moment. What are the challenges?
The challenges, you know, in Hausa, we say if you are going into a river, you measure the depth of the river with the first step of the first facet. That is. So now she understood the gains made by Dr. Kemi in her effort to assist Mr. President, to assist Nigerian common people to take the economy higher. But she should also learn what resolved to that issue of that took Dr. Kemi away. That is the first challenge. She must understand why Kemi was taken out of office, because it is not willingly from Dr. Kemi to say, okay, this is my fault. She cannot do that. Some are behind it. So in her own, she should be more diplomatic. She should understand the reason why there is mutual relationship among institutions of government. And she should work carefully with the right people. Right people including those from the executive, including right people from the other organs of government, especially the legislature. But one critical aspect is that I want her to be friendly with labor unions, because they have already set a ball running with war with the
When
company.
you say friendly with labor unions, what exactly do you mean?
What I mean is that I said it earlier, when she was received in her office as Minister of Finance, she was welcomed by trade unionists, which was unlike other predecessors. So now they have extended a hand of friendship, and by friendship is understanding what are their demands and what is the capacity of the government, and also to be careful not trade union to push her into also wrong areas where she would deviate from laws. So there is need for her to understand mutually your right demand, and also to tell the labor leaders at the right time.
Okay, time is really not on our side,
Okay.
but I would like us to move a little bit faster. The economy is set to be on a positive trajectory, and the strongest, of course, in Africa now, despite coming out of recession in 2017. So how can this be improved upon?
Yes, there is so much argument on why is South African economy above Nigerian economy of 2-3 years ago. But presently, we are using our capacity. The capacity is you continue to build up. To build up human development index matters more.
You know, Forbes written recently placed Nigeria higher than South Africa.
Yes, that is what the point I'm trying to raise. If we are higher in terms of economic expansion and production, we should look at Human Capital Development Index. Are we higher than South Africa? If we are not higher, what are those things to be done? They are clearly stated in all economies. Developmental economies highlighted several issues. First is education. 2 is living wage. 3 is conducive work atmosphere. So government has to invest. You are not expecting a scientist to perform miracle when he is not given the chance to perform. So our economy is in need of so much of brain, and that is why the trade war that is going between the United States and the Chinese, which is mainly based on intellectual property as well as property right, we have to come back home. Go to Aba. Who are these people? What are they producing? Their property right has to be protected, the same way we did to this Nollywood. If you are able to invent something, that something you invented must be protected so that you continue to have the gain. And also intellectual property, technology transfer. We need to transfer as much as technology to our teeming youth so that all our diversification effort will receive a touch of scientific approach. We have mentioned, myself discussing with you, the digital aspect of this world. The modern world is a hit and run market. And because it is hit and run, it is contestable. And because it is contestable, a step that you miss means again to another economy.
All right, so as a way of rounding off, our time is almost short on this program. I mean, how can the country overcome the issue of tax avoidance, in view of the fact that one of the major problems is that we've not been able to gain a lot of revenue from different ministries, agencies, and of course from the multinationals as well?
By looking at the tax rate and the tax base as well as the tax laws.
All right, thank you very much. I've been speaking with an economist who is a regular in our studios, Mr. Yoshel Aliu. Many thanks for joining us on the studio.
I'm grateful.
It's now time to join Joy Uzo for the Capital Market Review. Do stay with us.
Welcome to the Capital Market Review segment, where we'll bring you a review of activities on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange for the previous week. For the week ended 14th September 2018, a total turnover of 960.940 million shares, worth 18.329 billion naira in 16,896 deals were traded by investors on the floor of the exchange. The NSE All-Share Index and market capitalization depreciated by 5.02% to close the week at 32,327.59 and 11.802 trillion naira respectively. Similarly, all other indices finished lower, with the exception of the NSE ASEM Index that closed flat. The financial services industry measured by volume led the activity chart with 774.087 million shares valued at 9.244 billion naira, traded in 10,637 deals, thus contributing 80.56% and 50.44% to the total equity turnover volume and value respectively. The conglomerates industry followed with 54.805 million shares worth 80.062 million naira in 740 deals. The third place was occupied by the consumer goods industry with a turnover of 43.013 million shares worth 3.341 billion naira in 2,468 deals. Trading in the top three equities, namely Guaranty Trust Bank, Zenith Bank PLC and Access Bank PLC, measured by volume, accounted for 329.986 million shares worth 7.573 billion naira in 3,871 deals, contributing 34.34% and 41.32% to the total equity turnover volume and value respectively. Also traded during the week were a total of 41,358 units of exchange traded products, ETPs, valued at 1.148 million naira, executed in 8 deals. A total of 43,000 units of federal government bonds valued at 42.491 million naira were traded last week in 36 deals. 13 equities appreciated in price during the week. 58 equities depreciated in price, while 98 equities remained unchanged. In the United States, some stocks posted marginal previous Friday as reports said President Donald Trump wanted to move forward with tariffs on $200 billion in Chinese goods. S&P 500 by 0.03%, Dow Jones Industrial Average 0.03%, while Nasdaq Composite Index fell by 0.05%. European stocks were majorly positive at the end of trade last Friday. The German DAX rose 0.57%, FTSE 100 0.31%, and the France's CAC 40 also gained 0.46%. That's it on the Capital Market Review segment. Many thanks for watching.
Thank you very much, Joy, and that's where we round up our discussion today on the portfolio. But we expect to get a feedback from you from the platforms showing on your screen. From all of us here in the studio, it's bye for now. I'm Chimobi Walter Naj. Do have a lovely week.